At 82, I have learned a lot about life, but there's one decision I deeply regret: moving into a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the right choice. My family encouraged it, promising that I'd have all the care and comfort I needed. I believed them. But once I got there, I realized that the reality was nothing like what I had imagined. I know many of you might be thinking about this option, whether for yourself or a loved one. Perhaps you believe it's the most secure choice, or perhaps someone has assured you it will simplify your life. But before you take that step, I want to share 6 things I wish someone had told me before I moved in. Living in a nursing home involves more than just convenience. It changes everything. And once you go in, getting out isn't as simple as you think. Stay with me until the end, because some of these lessons might surprise you. And if you know someone considering a nursing home, this video might be precisely what they need to hear before making a life-changing decision. Let's begin now. Regret 1. Losing my independence. The biggest shock after moving into a nursing home wasn't the small room, the set meal times, or even the unfamiliar faces. It was the realization that I had lost control over my life. Before I moved in, I had my routines. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. I could take a walk whenever I wanted, cook my meals, or just sit quietly in my favorite chair with a book. But inside the nursing home, I quickly realized that my time was no longer my own. Everything ran on a schedule that wasn't mine. Breakfast was at a set time, even if I wasn't hungry. Lights out happened at a certain hour, whether I was ready for bed or not. Want to take a walk outside? You might need my permission, and you'll probably have to wait until someone is available to assist you. Simple decisions like what to eat or even what to wear started feeling like privileges instead of basic choices. I remember my first week there, waking up in a bed that didn't feel like mine. I sat up, stretched, and reached for the book I had been reading at home. But when I looked around the room, it hit me. This place wasn't my home. I had lost my books, my favorite chair, and the small comforts I had spent years collecting. In their place were sterile walls and a bed I didn't choose. In a feeling I couldn't shake, I was no longer in charge of my life. What was the most challenging aspect of this experience? Realizing that once you give up your independence, getting it back is almost impossible. You adapt because you have to. You stop arguing when they tell you what's for dinner. You stop asking if you can go for a walk whenever you want. You learn to fit into their system, but in the process, you start losing yourself. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought possible. You'll also regret feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing that the world outside keeps moving without you. When I first arrived, my family reassured me that they would visit often. I believed them, and initially they did. My daughter came by once a week, my grandchildren visited on weekends, and for a little while, it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But as the months went by, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming. My grandchildren got busy with school and work. Holidays were the hardest. Everyone made promises to attend, yet their plans consistently shifted at the last moment. And suddenly I found myself sitting alone in a common room watching other residents stare at the door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered them. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. Life just got in the way. Instead of seeing you every day, people may assume you're fine, adjusting, and don't need as much attention. Yet the longer you stay in a nursing home, the easier it is for others to forget how much you need them. I remember one evening sitting in my room holding my phone, debating whether to call my son. I would rather not be a burden. I would rather not remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down, and that's when it hit me. This was my life now. I watched the days pass by, hoping that someone would remember to include me. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? No matter how much your family loves you, it's easy for them to forget you once you're out of sight. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Now let's move forward. Regret 3. Losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities. I had routines, hobbies, and a reason to get up in the morning. Even the small things gave me a sense of purpose. Watering the plants, making my own coffee, and tidying up my space. But in the nursing home, those daily rituals disappeared. Someone else prepared my meals. Someone else handled the cleaning. The plants, well, they weren't mine to take care of anymore. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax. No more chores, no more responsibilities, just rest. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long, stretched out with nothing to do but wait. I saw it in other residents too. People who had once been full of energy now sat, staring, waiting for the passage of time. Now they spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. There was a man named George, 84 years old, who had been a carpenter his entire life. At home, he was always fixing things, building little projects in his garage. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as he slowly withdrew his hands, once strong and skilled, now idle in his lap. One day he told me, "I feel useless." And I understood exactly what he meant. When you no longer have something to care for, something to work toward, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows down, the body follows. And soon you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time moves but nothing really changes. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself what gives your life meaning. Once you move into a nursing home, finding purpose becomes more complex than just occupying your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. Regret 4, declining health faster than expected. Before I moved into a nursing home, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I could still take care of myself. Go for walks and cook my meals. I had my little routines that kept me moving. I would go grocery shopping, stretch in the mornings, or simply walk around the house to keep my legs strong. But once I moved in, everything changed. Initially, I appeared to be enjoying a relaxed lifestyle. Meals were brought to me, and I no longer had to stand in the kitchen to cook. I could simply press a button to summon assistance when I needed it. But what I didn't realize was that the less I did for myself, the weaker I became. I stopped moving as much, and soon my legs felt stiffer. I began to spend more time sitting than I used to, and soon rising from a chair became a laborious task. The muscles I had spent years maintaining were disappearing faster than I ever expected. And it wasn't just me. I saw it happen to others too. Individuals who had previously walked independently were suddenly dependent on wheelchairs. People who had once been independent now needed help with things they never struggled with before. The more assistance we received, the more apparent our need became. I remember my neighbor Alice, a title or description that is more commonly understood, an 81-year-old woman who was lively when she first arrived. She used to take daily walks around the facility, insisting that she wasn't going to slow down just because of a number. But after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. Then she started using a walker. Next, she transitioned to using a wheelchair. One day she looked at me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." And that's precisely what it felt like. When you stop using your body, you start losing it. And in a nursing home where everything is designed to make things easier, it's easy to forget that movement isn't just about convenience, it's about survival. If I had known how quickly I would lose strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving, to stay active, and to push myself even when I didn't feel like it. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything is set up to make life effortless? Once you slow down, it becomes more difficult to get back up. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. If you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you do so and activate the bell to ensure you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. I regret the loss of privacy and dignity. Before moving into a nursing home, I didn't fully consider just how much privacy I would lose. At home, I had my space. I could close my bedroom door, sit in silence if I wanted, and do things on my terms. But in a nursing home, privacy is a luxury you don't always get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched, with staff coming in and out, scheduled room checks, and shared spaces where you're rarely alone. Even simple things like getting dressed or using the bathroom often required someone's assistance. I know they were just doing their job, but it's difficult to accept help for things you've done independently your entire life. I remember my first week struggling with the idea that I had to ask for permission to do things I once did without thinking. Want to take a shower? You might have to wait until someone is available to help. Do you need to use the restroom? Sometimes pressing the call button means waiting longer than you'd like. Even meal choices were limited. If you don't like what's on the menu that day, well, too bad. And then there was the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and sharing a space with someone else, someone you didn't choose, can be frustrating. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but I heard stories from others who weren't so fortunate. Some had roommates who were loud, unclean, or had habits that made sleep nearly impossible. And no matter how much you try to make your room feel like home, it's never truly yours. Dignity is a hard thing to lose, and I didn't realize how much of mine I'd have to surrender until I was already there. When people knock but don't always wait for an answer before coming in, when you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person, when your daily routines are dictated by a schedule you didn't create, it changes you. You start feeling less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the privacy and control you have had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's difficult to get back. Regret sets in when you realize it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. I thought I'd give it a try, see how things went, and if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But what I didn't realize was just how difficult it would be to get out once I was in. At first, it seemed simple. If I didn't like it, I'd just go back home. But home wasn't the same anymore. My house sat empty, and maintaining it from a distance became difficult. My children had already started making changes, selling things they thought I wouldn't need, even considering renting out the place. When I brought up the idea of returning, they hesitated. Are you sure you can manage on your own? Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you. However, I experienced a noticeable physical decline. After months of living in a place where I didn't have to cook, clean, or even walk very far, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I once had started slipping away, making the idea of moving back home more difficult than I ever imagined. I wasn't as confident in my ability to live alone, and that fear kept me stuck. I met others who had the same experience. They thought they'd try the nursing home for a little while, only to realize that leaving wasn't as easy as they anticipated. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to adjust to life outside. Some people even lost the option entirely. Once their home was sold or their savings were drained by the cost of care, there was no going back. That's the part nobody tells you. Moving in feels like a decision you can reverse. But for most people, it isn't. The nursing home gradually becomes your entire world, and before you realize it, the outside life you once knew begins to feel like a distant memory. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that once you go in, leaving might not be as simple as you think? Once you settle in, overcoming the financial, physical, or emotional barriers to leave may be more challenging than you anticipate. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Salam to Mom. Final thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret believing that a nursing home was my only option. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a world that slowly took away my independence, my privacy, my purpose, and even my sense of self. Does that mean nursing homes are all bad? Not necessarily. Some people really need their care, but before you move in, think carefully about what you're giving up. Life will change. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my home, explored more ways to get help without giving up my freedom, and made sure I truly needed to be there before making such a permanent move. And if you're facing this decision, I hope you take the time to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me? Or is it just what seems easiest right now? Your current life, your routines, your independence, and your choices are valuable assets that you should cherish for as long as possible. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us tremendous motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.